All right. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I am Brian Anthony Garcia, and I am with.
Hi, I'm Michael John Peña, and welcome to the Battle of Clouds. And we're with Milo, who is a cybersecurity guy. So, Milo, tell us something about yourself.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Pretty much. Much about myself is like 15 years worth of experience in cybersecurity. Literally, I went around the disciplines of cybersecurity. So I'm here with Michael and Brian, trying to discuss much about the cloud things, the cloud scenario of infrastructure and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's pretty much
All right,
fair.
thanks. So, Brian, ano bang topic natin for tonight or for today?
So, basically, we'll be focusing on, again, tulad ng nasabi ni Milo, we'll be focusing on cloud security. So, ako personally, I haven't really had that much knowledge about the security in cloud. Siguro yung mga basic lang, like, uh,
Like
mga
DDoS attacks, yung mga
yes, yung
ganun.
mga ganun. And even that, hindi nga ganun karami yung knowledge ko about that. So, I'm pretty new about this. So, ikaw ba, Michael? Kamusta naman yung knowledge mo when it comes to cloud security?
I think my understanding with security, I mean, first and foremost, right? Masyadong malaking security as a topic. It's very broad, right? It goes all the way from network, the actual servers, the applications, even people, with social engineering and stuff like that. Um, but then, Milo, tell us, what is security? What's your perspective of what is a secure system or what is a secure infrastructure?
Okay, let's start with the very basic of things. Yung ano yan, yung think of your regular network. Okay, so your regular network is compromised with what? Servers, end users, so applications. Um, let's say already email systems and whatnot. So that includes your infrastructure, even physical security of things. So primarily, the security is the posture of you on the defensive posture of how you deal with the anticipated threat. So there are a lot of threats right now. Most of you have heard much about like hackers, phishing, denial of service, much a lot of combination of attack, and some even have an experience with what you call that. We call it nation state attack. So that's usually abbreviated as advanced persistent threat. So it can be subtle attack to a point of it will actually deplete your network resources, or so it will flatten out your organization to the point it can no longer operate. Okay, so in the security side of things is it will focus on primarily what you have, which is most value to the attacker. Okay, most company would actually like what try to cover everything. Okay, but I would suggest, in the perspective of security, is this: understand first what is your most valuable asset, and then start protecting it. So it's just how you what's the term, manicure yung security nyo para hindi
Mm.
kayo gumastos ng sobra. Yeah,
All
pretty
right.
much. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I think most common hype around security is the concept of, hackers and, being hacker being cool, parang mayroong stigma around it. What's your thought around that hype of security is always about hacking systems, breaking systems, exploiting millions, billions dollars, what people see or watch in Hollywood. How realistic is that in the real world?
Okay, so realistically, yeah, a hacker can pretty much do a lot of damage. That includes your car, your regular network, regular airplane, a boat. They can pretty much sabotage everything. Now, the hype with the hacker being what you call it, the anti-hero of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say frankly that a hacker is nothing more than a common thief. Okay? Kung sa Tagalog sasabihin nga natin mandarambong.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
So, in other form, palalain natin. Budol-budol.
Okay.
Okay?
So it's mostly organized, is it?
It's mostly organized and it's all about the money. Okay? There's nothing about principle other than particular groups. So there are part hackers that are, going with advocacy. Those are the hacktivists. Okay? Now, those people I got some respect with. But anybody who asks for money in return or offer their services in return after they hack you and tell you that, okay, we hack you because we want you to fix it. Then later on somebody will try to contact you and sell their services. That is what you call sales. Yun yung sabi nga niyan scam sales yun. Okay? To be very careful with those things. So just watch out before somebody try to sell you or something like this. Somebody tried to sell you and you ignored it, then you get hacked. Or you get hacked, then a few weeks later, somebody approach you that, hey, I'm selling this. Be very careful with those because those are the same person who probably did compromise your system. Yeah, so that's what about hacker. There's nothing glorifying about them. They're just like common thief. Okay, yeah.
All right. Thanks for that. So let's drill into yung topic natin for today. About cloud security. I think, simulan ko na, like, most concern ng mga, like, people who are very new to cloud or who doesn't even know what cloud is. Merong parang bias around cloud that when it's on cloud, it's not secure because it's in the internet, right? Can you tell more about it and, what's your side around that?
Okay, so let's start with the basic. Most people say, as you mentioned, pag nasa cloud, hindi secure, right? I would beg to differ with them because if a company offered cloud services, okay, it means they're particularly secured wherever that infrastructure is. Now, most of them have ISO standard. It means you cannot even walk through to that company without being noticed or whatnot. So everything has redundancy, so the connection, security, and whatnot. Okay, so yeah, some companies I would point out that they would actually try to scam you with security even though it's not there. Okay, they would say we have a cloud security that comes in, but literally you have to buy it later on. Okay, so not even the basic part of it. So they would say, okay, this subscription comes with something, but that subscription literally is like flat out. It's like more of like, okay, might as well start your network in your own backyard. The only difference is that 24/7 multi-hotspot, right? And then it's multi-location. So that's the only difference in there. But if you're gonna pick a cloud, so it would apply that, okay, cloud is not secure. It depends on the vendor. Okay? It depends. So better look for a vendor that offers it and it's on paper in black and white, and particularly look for a vendor that follows GDPR. So that's a European data privacy law. So they have papers for it, for compliance. Then the other one is ISO 27001. If they have both of them, so pretty much you're secure. Then other than that is always read the fine paper. Don't just believe on marketing. Look into the fine paper. If they offer actual security, if it's included in your subscription or not. Yeah.
All right. And I think in my point of view and also in my experience, it's always a shared responsibility anyway, right? It's not just about the platform. It's not just about the infrastructure. It's also your, being you na developer or kayo as a company on how you'll actually, think of it. At kumbaga parang hindi lang siya, hush-hush na, okay, once nandito na siya sa specific service or specific platform, secure na siya. It's always a shared responsibility in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because most of the breaches that happen in the cloud, that's why some people are saying cloud is weak, because it's misconfiguration. So somebody misconfigured things. You would see some, for the past, 4 years, most of the known breaches, it's because the developer didn't properly code, system administrator didn't actually lock down the entire infrastructure, or some disgruntled employee opened up things because they want to pay back with the company. So it's a misconfiguration, or it's a person coming from the inside who actually opened the door to the kingdom. So yeah, those are the scenarios that you're looking at.
All right. How about you, Bri? Any follow-up questions around security
Yeah,
and
actually,
cloud?
Yeah, actually, I was about to ask that same question because na-mention ni Milo kanina na, there are these cloud vendors na they might say they offer security pero in reality hindi naman talaga they just pang ano lang nila yon,
Marketing.
parang yes, marketing.
Yeah.
Pero let's just say right now well, for the past two episodes kasi namin, we've been talking about two or three major cloud vendors. And
Okay.
as we all know, these are, they definitely or should have the security that we all expect them to have.
Yes. Go on.
So, um, well, napag-usapan nyo na rin naman kanina yung regarding sa shared responsibility nga naman. So, hindi naman talaga definitely sa side lang ni vendor yung kailangang i-set up ng maayos yung security. It's
Mhm.
also on the side of the developers or the client. But is there any case, or at least I definitely think that there is a case wherein sa side talaga ng mga cloud vendors yung nagkaroon ng problem, or is that something that happens a lot, or at least happened once in this year or in few years ago?
Okay. So I'll give you an example. So can I name vendors? Would that be
Ah,
possible?
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
All right. So let's start with, let's just use initial along the way. So like people still have some fun with deciphering what we're talking about. So
All right.
usually, this is a very simple fact. Okay. So usually, you guys heard of denial of service, right?
Yep.
DDoS,
Uh,
right?
oh, but for the sake of the audience, what is denial of service? Yeah.
So I'll put it in a context like this. So denial of service is like you have a particular limit, right? So example, your say your room can only guarantee an actual 8 person on it, right? So that room is actually bombarded by 10,000 people. So literally nobody can get in and out of that room no more, correct? So in effect,
Mhm.
that is denying people to actually get into the room and actually operate, or say if it's, that room is equivalent to a bank, so nobody can withdraw already because it only have a certain limit, and that limit has exceeded already. So that attack of exceeding the limit of a certain process, of a certain infrastructure, is like a denial of service. So you're actually denying the regular customer from accessing what's supposed to be there. So in order for it to get to that room, you have to have a number of people only who can transact with that room. So in putting 10,000 of beyond the capacity of 8, or 10,000 more people beyond the 8 capacity, so it's like bombarding it too much that it will let collapse or literally shut down by itself. Okay, so this is an example of denial service. So let's
Okay.
put it. So let's put it in a context like this. So most companies, vendor would say that okay, we can protect you at a certain degree. Okay, but what they're saying is actually you have to buy additional part of our service in order for you to get protected. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
some companies actually just like it's like a what do you call it, hook, line, and sinker to entice you to bring in. In reality, they don't have much. I put it this way. This is an example. You guys heard about AWS, right?
Yep.
Right. So most of the subscribers of AWS would say, okay, we already have this and this and this. So depending on who you're talking with, maybe salespeople would have promised you the world and whatnot, and they end up realizing that they don't have much of security other than the basic part. And other than that, the basic part is they don't even have an actual monitoring crew on it. So if you exceed a certain number, then you will be, well, the what you call it, the monitoring guys, and then the monitoring guys are actually not available. So there's nothing to report to you that hey, somebody is attacking you. The very basic of things. Now there's another company. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a blue something in it. Correct. What's that company?
Uh-huh.
Blue. There's a initial in it. What's that?
Bloomix.
Cloud. Sorry.
Is it Bloomix?
Six something else. Correct me if I'm wrong. Blue Ocean.
Oh,
Yeah, Blue Ocean is an cloud asset as well. No, is that
Oh, are you talking about DigitalOcean?
Digital Ocean or something like that? So similar scenario is this. All right. So I know I'm not sure if it's hosting or it's a cloud services as well. Okay, but this is a scenario. So it's a regular operation in the company, but it acted like an attack, a denial of service. So literally, the company who's actually doing the operation was denied access to its own infrastructure by the admin of the cloud because they think they're being attacked or that services that they have or the application they have published is actually attacking someone else. Without investigation, they literally shut down the company. Okay? And all the company have is an apology. Okay? So there's a lot of things in the cloud depending on the vendor. And then there's other forms like
yeah.
if some attack happen, not a hand from the vendor comes in like in the point like we will help you in investigating what happened. Always the company would say, "Oh, I have nothing to do with it because you misconfigure it. You just put it like so." Well, we never had an agreement. So say you never took our premium services. It's all about money for them. Okay?
Yep.
So they may want to
Yeah.
consider the vendors.
Yeah, and I think to put it in analogy, di ba? Think of it like basically they're saying that they're just selling energy, right? Or they're just selling
Hmm.
kuryente. But then if nakuryente ka sa bahay mo because of for some reason, they would always say na it's not their responsibility, right? Because they're just providing power to you.
Mhm. But the extent of investigation alone or telling you that hey you're being attacked right now, that simple step can make a difference for a company.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, instead of telling you, they would actually shut you down or hell, they would say, okay, you exceeded your quota and bandwidth, you need to pay more. Okay,
Yeah.
without further explanation. Okay, so it depends on the vendor you're dealing with. So there's a lot of them outside, and then if you go around the internet, you would see a lot of them having breaches because it's misconfigured. Nobody helped them. It's too late.
All right. I think one key lesson there is we parang again shared responsibility, diba? Not just on the actual platform application or configuration, but also the fine print or the commercials,
Yes.
diba, around the relationship with the vendor. So that's probably something to consider as well.
Mm-hmm. I think I have an additional question about since we've talked about these cloud vendors na rin, these major cloud vendors, because we talked about how strong their security are. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, talagang I think
Military
enough,
grade, yeah.
or maybe
Well, as for
just
that
enough.
military grade, it's beyond question because they got Pentagon deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so my question is, since we have already we have security set up on these cloud vendors already on their services, bakit pa meron tayong or ba't may mga companies pa like mga cloud computing security companies na available out there, kind of like to integrate into another cloud vendor service, something like that. Is it something like hindi pa enough yung security na binibigay ng cloud vendor, or ano ba yun? Paano ba yun?
Okay.
So
That's a
kumbaga,
very-
bakit meron pang market around the consulting side of this?
Right.
Bakit meron pang mga market around another type of layer on top of
Yeah.
the platform?
Is
and
it
that kind
not
of stuff.
enough?
Okay. To tell you the truth, well, I only know one company who offers the entire 9 yards of things. Okay, for cloud, and that's Azure. The rest is actually piggybacking to the point that they could have a collection of vendors, and then hey, we have a prescribed vendor for security. You add it to your services, and we get percentage for it. Okay, so when reality strikes, the cloud vendor, doesn't know squat about things because they're not security themselves. Okay, so you will go around the loop of calling vendor support. Oh, it's not our job. Let's go to another one. So the added cost per vendor integration The interoperability, if they can interoperate, because you have your own security, and there's what you call that. There's the one what you call it. They're promoting. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's not a plug and play approach. It's more of like mix and match approach, and depends on your budget. So the more vendor you incorporate, the more headache you have, and the more support process that you have to go through. Now, that is just one concern. Now, if you talk about the security side of things, talk about integration. So, this vendor doesn't talk with another one. Okay? So, then in order for you to have interoperability with those vendors within your cloud, is you need to pay a premium for them to interoperate. So that's another scam. Okay? So, I would say particularly that, yeah, they don't have, well, most cloud infrastructure or what vendor doesn't have their own security team, and if they do, it's just not enough, because most of them are what you call it, delegated to their third party, because they get
Mhm.
percentage for it. Okay, what they have is primarily just monitoring, and yeah, particularly monitoring, and then the resolution
Yeah.
is solved by someone else. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's added cost for you as a user or as a subscriber. Mm. Compared to that one of the Azure, they have what you have your own Microsoft team guide, right? So
Yeah, they have
MSRC
Azure
team, then
Sentinel.
you have an
Yeah.
ATP, then
Mhm.
other than those things. So that's one of the things I admire about the Azure part. So it's integrated, one-stop shop. Then, and only then, if you want third party, then you can get it. It's still there, okay? But primarily, you already have. It's like a plug and play approach. Others we
Mhm.
still have the compatible if it's working for whatnot for whatever scenarios that you have in your infrastructure, what design you have. So it depends. Yeah, and above all, you really need to pick who's your what you call that vendor. If you don't, then
All right.
your budget will offshoot your actual calculation. Okay,
Of
that's the
course. Yeah.
only scenario, especially with security right now.
Okay. So just to I know we're really having fun, discussing about this. It's a very interesting topic.
Mhm.
Pero let's go on to yung the lasting part of this podcast. Basically, what are your recommendations, or at least some recommendations to be secure on the cloud, at least on a high level. Parang, how do we secure cloud? At least the
Okay.
basics.
Okay. First, you need to pick what do you call it? It depends on what application, what kind of infrastructure you're dealing with. Okay, so let's just start with the basic one. So the basic one is like you have a website, you have a database. Okay, then you have an application in the cloud. So one is you need to take a proper cloud right, vendor that actually supports your infrastructure. Okay, with no added much cost. Okay. Second to that one is you need to have a code review in your application. Okay, most cloud vendor doesn't do a code review on your application that you're publishing. They don't care about squat. Okay. Hell, they
Mhm.
don't even give you an what you call it, a solution to do a code review. Okay. So they just want okay.
Mhm.
So if you want something in your application, let's just put a WAP on it. So it's like a what do you call that? The firewall version of a cloud part. Okay. So let's put on a WAP for your application, then you get protected. So they just want to slam you with something, and then they try to sell it with no consideration of what you actually need. So second, next part is you need a code review. Second part is you need what do you call it, an adept what do you call that, policy or protocol and patch management. Okay. Second is your baseline operating system should be longer, primarily half of your life, or so have a proper support. I would not advise open source, especially those free ones, because when they come to a limit of their distribution, they just collapse it and bye bye. I no longer support you because we can no longer patch up the what do you call it, the flavor of a particular, let me say this, Linux. Okay, we can no longer
Mhm.
patch it, so it's a community, so let's just move to another version. And then if you build your application in that particular distribution, it's a bye bye, because there's no more support to it other than common people support, or like some person who actually like what do you call that, would like to help you for an additional cost. So that's a concern. All right. Now, you need to have a particularly first one is code review, a proper security, so that comes with WAP and whatnot. Then you need to have particularly DLP to evaluate who is like what you call that accessing your documents or so infrastructure in the cloud. So these are the part that if you turn your cloud into storage, so you would see evaluate who's doing who and whatnot. Okay, so we have a policy right now in cybersecurity. It's like zero trust policy. So literally, you don't trust anybody. So you have to evaluate and audit each and every one of them what they're doing. So you need to have that. Okay. Now, backup in particular. So you need to have an aggregated backup. So cloud and to another option. Okay. Just in case you get compromised. Okay. And the most important part, you need to have an active security. Okay. Have you guys heard of a ransomware, what you call that, hitting to the cloud? Have you ever heard one before?
Actually, haven't. But,
I haven't.
Okay, that would be a nightmare for you. Here's how it goes. Okay, so some people already know about ransomware because it's a hype right now. So if one of your employees is accessing your cloud infrastructure, and that employee, this is an employee working from home or working in the office. So the most critical one right now is working from home. They can pretty much download anything in their computer, correct? Now, if
Yes.
they're accessing or have an admin level or a mid-level access to that cloud infrastructure you have, and you don't have an active threat denial system, like a proper security antivirus or application that denies any unknown or unauthorized access, okay, to drop or add a file within that cloud, a ransomware can collapse you to the point that the ransomware encrypts all files, right? So it bores into one of your user, it goes out the cloud, okay. Then when it reaches in there, it encrypts everything. So you have only two options: pull out your backup or pay the ransom. Which one would you choose? The problem is if you have a proper backup.
Uh-huh.
That's a concern. If you have a backup. So most of the people who actually got attacked by a ransomware doesn't have a backup, or they thought they have a backup. Okay? So those are the scenario that you're dealing with. If you that's why I pointed out the ransomware, because currently right now in about 3 days ago, there was two who got hit by a ransomware. Similar to that scenario. An end user working from home, managing or trying to update, patch one of their infrastructure. So it piggyback on the file that they're updating or moving up and down the cloud asset. It hit them. The ransomware from an endpoint went out to the cloud and wiped out, pretty much encrypted everything they have. Yep.
All
So
right.
this is scenario.
Brian, any like last question, I would
Yeah.
say, or like
Actually, have this one last question because I know a lot of people, or I at least I know a few companies na ganito yung mindset nila na parang they don't want to migrate into cloud kasi iniisip nila might not be safe. Their data might not be safe
Right.
if they put it up or migrate into any cloud vendors. And I'm talking about even those big cloud vendors out there like Azure, AWS. They just don't want to. And again, probably may misconception eh. Pero what can you say, or what would you say on to those companies na takot mag-migrate into cloud because they have these parang takot sila na alam mo na yun, regarding cloud security. Yeah.
Okay, so let's speak their language, okay? All right. Most company in the Philippines right now has two compliance, correct? One is data privacy compliance, correct? And the second one is, well, what is the other compliance that they have? So pretty much business continuity, okay? So one, let's tackle first data privacy. Now, most company doesn't have a security infrastructure in their office, correct? Anybody can walk in, walk out of their office, okay? So Pretty much your janitor can go into your server room and pull out anything. How about this? The janitor is paid up just 50,000 peso. Plug this USB because he have access to the server room, right? He cleans it up, correct? Or how about this one?
Mm-hmm.
Just look for the system administrator's computer and plug it into his computer. All you have to do is plug in a USB stick to a computer belonging to system administrator, and everything in that infrastructure goes out in the blue. Okay? Now, put that in the context of the cloud asset. Okay? So, no external person other than the one you authorize to go into that cloud asset can actually put in or add anything or remove anything from that infrastructure. Correct?
Yes.
No physical person can just walk in. No
I mean,
deranged.
you don't actually know where that location is, right?
Exactly. And then you have layers and layers of security before you reach the actual server, right? Correct?
Yep.
So that is the first part. So you have layers, you're creating layer of security before somebody walks in there and like do a mess. Okay? A janitor can have a hydrochloric acid and just walk into server room and pour a gallon of hydrochloric acid and bust all your servers. That's pretty much it, and you're down. And how long is your recovery? Now, on the part of recovery, in cloud, you can just switch it, just a snap of a finger. You can recover in less than what? 30 minutes? That's it.
Yeah, even
In
just
physical
minutes.
asset, yeah. In physical asset, you have to procurement, you have to wait. Right now, some people can even buy a laptop right now because they don't have a blade system. Okay, so that's a part of business continuity. Okay, that's just one scenario of business continuity and disaster recovery. Okay, so most of the business people right now need to understand that it will make your life easier and it will make your infrastructure safer. Okay, now on the contingency part of it, that somebody would compromise you, you know who will compromise you. It's one of your people that you actually gave access to the cloud asset. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. No deranged employee can just walk in with a hammer and then smack every server there is. Okay. So one, if your office shut down, your infrastructure is still alive, moving anywhere across the world. Right. Say for example, for business continuity purposes, the entire Asia shut down, right? The entire Asia shut down because of an earthquake. Your website still running, your database still running because it has multiple mirror in North America and Europe. Okay, so even you're dead, your server is still running. Okay, and still taking orders. Okay, that's a point blank part of it. Business continuity. Now for data privacy. Contingency is this. A part of data privacy, what you call that? A part of data privacy law is this: how do you protect your infrastructure? So, do you protect your infrastructure because in a server room? Other than that, where's your backup? Now, is your backup so? Everything that has to do with data privacy is a cost. Now, if you go with the conventional infrastructure or network, it will cost you a lot because how many server you have? You have a APC, right? Means UPS. Okay. Sorry, I'm branding now a UPS system.
Yeah.
You have backup and everything, a generator and whatnot. Okay. So in the cloud, you have what? Infrastructure. Mirrored in multiple sites that you have backup everywhere. Now, second part. For data privacy, your infrastructure needs to be secured. How many company in the Philippines has ISO certification? ISO 27001.
I don't know.
Not much, because most
Not
telco
much.
has one. So most multinational company with ROHQ in the Philippines has an ISO. But you're not one of those ROHQ companies, right? Now, if you want to avail to make your life easier for data privacy, secure infrastructure qualification comes if you put your infra in an ISO certified infrastructure. So you just skip the part of making an ISO for yourself. You just put it on somebody's backyard, which is Microsoft. They're GDPR compliance. They're still ISO 2700 in compliance. So pretty much you're sold there. That's it. So it cuts you cost, big time cost. Okay, I'm not sure with the pricing right now, but I'm sure a Dell server, one of those Dell Blade server, is
Yep.
more expensive than operating a cloud asset, correct?
Mm-hmm. I would think so. Yeah.
I don't have the pricing right now of a regular Dell server, a Blade server. But how many Blade server do you need to have to run to operate your infrastructure in the office versus the one you're subscribing in the cloud? So it's
And
all
not to
about the
mention
cost.
the network cost as well.
Yep, and the maintenance costs and the security of putting the physical security around those server rooms. So it depends. So it's all a matter of architecture. So most
Mm-hmm.
people fear about the cloud because they don't know how to implement it. Okay, that's the
Mm-hmm.
only difference. So all you need to have is a proper guy who is trained probably whatever vendor you have. But I would still much prefer it with Microsoft because it's pretty much easy. Now everybody knows about Microsoft. So one is get a guy who can do a proper architecture of security, and that solves your problem. Okay, because the worst possible scenario that would happen if you are in the cloud is this: one, somebody misconfigured your asset. That's why it got a big hole on it. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is this: you didn't pay your administrator so much that he pull out the data. Okay, so those are the
Mm-hmm.
only two scenarios that you have a problem in the cloud. Okay, the only two. So
Mm-hmm.
you get breached because somebody's screwing up their job. They're not doing their job. Okay. The other one is somebody misconfigured it, or the third one is somebody's not paid enough so much that it took his anger brunt out of your infrastructure. Maybe one of your security
Mm-hmm.
administrator or admin, what do you call it, your website admin opened the door. So those are the three scenarios. It's going to be human factor. But if you have a properly designed and architectured cloud asset, you don't have much of a problem. All you need to do is sit back, relax, and monitor how much money your asset is actually gaining. Okay. Other than that, that's it.
All right. I guess thanks very much, Milo. But I would just like to ask, how can people reach out to you, or throughout the community? How can they, reach out to you in terms of, I don't know, Twitter, Facebook, socials, or anything like that?
Oh well, you just like well, I have a Facebook. You can just look up my name. So it's Milo Pacamara. And the other one is in LinkedIn. That you would see. Just type in Milo Pacamara. It would point me to my LinkedIn anyway. And yeah, well, maybe I can type in any later on. So I represent CSP CERT. It's a Cybersecurity Philippines CERT. So it's a CERT. It's a private CERT organization in the Philippines. By the way, just a reminder, we are not the ICT. Okay, the ICT is the national CERT. We are the
Mm-hmm.
private cert, okay? Don't confuse that, okay? We are board cert, but I'm not the ICT, okay? Just to make
Mm-hmm.
sure. Okay? I'm not government speech, all right?
Okay.
So yeah, other than yeah, pretty much they can contact me in that way.
And I think one thing na hindi rin siguro dapat natin ma-confuse is that it should be Milo, not Milo. I kept calling you Milo.
Yeah, usually what you call it, Greeks call me Milo because they don't have Milo. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so Michael, you have anything to say?
I think that's all. I mean, ako, sobrang na-enjoy ko, like, just listening with Milo.
Yeah.
Dami ko natutunan, di ba? Pero, it's, again, before, this podcast, me and Milo was just talking about so much opportunity right now in the Philippines around this cybersecurity space, and also missed potential as well, so that we can bridge.
There's a lot of them. You just need to tap the proper resources and shake the proper tree.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks very much, Milo.
Yeah, man. No problem.
All right.
Glad to be of
Uh,
service to you guys.